Hi, it's Ash and welcome to my channel. Welcome into my community of fellow runners. We like to make sure we warm up properly, make sure that we cool down effectively with a nice dynamic stretch, and we like to keep our body strong and healthy and supple. And that's what the majority of my videos focus on. So welcome into my community. If you're new, if you're a regular viewer here, you may notice that this is a different environment to my usual type of videos I'm normally doing in the studio. This is going to be a questions and answers type video where I'm going to spend some time answering your questions. I put this out on my community tab and I said, send me your questions and I'll answer them. And I got mainly running related and strength related questions back, and I'm going to spend some time answering them now. If you are new to my channel, just a quick overview of who I am. I'm Ash. I'm a personal trainer. I'm an advanced personal trainer with lots of different sports specific programming qualifications and medical conditions qualifications, as well as being a yoga teacher and a running coach. And I am a massive runner myself. I love running. So let's get started with the very first question. So Ayana Arrington, I hope that I pronounced that properly, says, so Ash, would you consider making a talking video explaining how to train for a 10-mile race? Currently, I am able to run 4 miles. So thanks for that question, Ayana, and thank you for your regular comments and your views and stretching along with me. So you haven't mentioned the time frame that we've got there, and we haven't mentioned any time goals. So we won't include any time specific focus on that. And we'll look at the basis of going from 4 miles to 10 miles. Before we do anything, is we need to focus on gradual progression, because it is really common and really easy to do too much and too soon and feel good and be like, yeah, I'm feeling good, I'm going to add on another mile or half a mile here, and then you're doing that a few weeks on the run, and then all of a sudden after 4 or 5 weeks, you start to get an overuse injury because you've done too much too soon and you've gone and jumped up too fast. So we've got to focus on gradual progression, and ideally you want to be thinking about working in 4-week blocks. So your body has a capacity that it will be able to work within a 4-week block at its current level. And then it takes 4 weeks of roughly around 4 weeks. It's a complex system, but it's roughly 4 weeks for your body to adapt to this training stimulus. So if you work in a 4-week block, you gradually just do gradual progress for those 4 weeks, and then you work on another 4-week block, and again just a gradual progress through those 4-week blocks. We don't want to be doing big jumps all the time, so big spikes that are going to cause those overuse injuries. And what we want to be thinking now is either every 4th week or every 8th week, we want to be focusing on a little bit more of a kind of deload week, where we're reducing the intensity, we're reducing the volume, so that we're allowing the body to adapt. So look at working in 4-week blocks from whenever your 10-mile race is. Maybe work backwards in 4-week blocks and look at how you can just gradually increase your long run distance. So at the moment you're running 4 miles, maybe just progress that bit by bit, the long run distance. Maybe if you've got the space, the time to do that, you could go in half mile increments, or you could go 1 mile increments, so 1 mile each week, but that might be too intense. But it depends on the length of time that you've got between the 4 miles that you're currently at and the 10-mile race that you've got. The longer time, the better, because you can get that nice, gradual, smoother progress. The shorter the window, obviously you're going to have to push that a little bit, and you're going to have to increase your mileage and push the risk of increasing your injury. So gradual progression is one thing that is going to help you get there. Increasing the frequency of your runs is also going to help you get there. So if you're currently running 3 times a week, adding on an extra run of maybe 1 mile, 1.5 miles will increase your overall volume for the week, which again is making your body adapt. So maybe think about adding on, if you're running 3 times a week at the moment, maybe think about adding a 4th run at a really gentle, easy pace, just to get the overall weekly volume that little bit further up, so then the body is adapting to that. So thinking about that, and then making sure you are doing regular stretching, which is good, and regular mobility work, which is going to help your body recover, but then focusing on making sure we are making the body as strong as possible. So stronger muscles can take greater forces. It's a really simple equation. So if you strengthen the muscles, as you start to increase the mileage, your body, your muscles are stronger. They can take the force and the pressure and the demands that are going through them. So think about making sure your strength training, you're starting to at least strength train twice a week, particularly in the lower body. And that's another thing to consider. Also thinking about making sure that we're getting adequate rest. So making sure that we're allowing the body enough time to rest. So sleep is really important to help the body recover. Making sure we're getting the right hydration and nutrition. So making sure that you are drinking enough water so that the processes of your body can happen in that. Obviously, every chemical process in the body happens within water. So we need to make sure that we're adequately hydrated. Make sure that we are fueled efficiently for the longer runs, and making sure that we are eating enough food and enough sustenance to keep the body nourished so that it can repair, but also that it can fuel as we are starting to demand more of it, and we're having a greater energy demand. So those are the things really you've got to consider. I hope really that you do take the time to just have that gradual progression, work in those 4-week blocks. I hope this helps, and thank you for your question, Diana. Okay, so the next question from Natty4549. What running goals did you have in the past? How did you achieve them? How long did it take? And what are your current running goals? Also, any tips on how to set realistic goals? Thank you for that question. That's looking into how I got into running. I just used to run, really. I went through a period of, I've always, as a young kid, I've always been a bit of a sprinter. I've been quite fast. So I used to do sprints at like high school level. I was quite a good sprinter, the 100-meter sprints. I used to represent my school at high school, at the high school local area, against when we used to compete against other high schools. And I was a sprinter. So I always used to enjoy running fast. And as I got older, I sort of played lots of sports. And then I went through a period in my 20s where I didn't really run that much. I lived quite an unhealthy lifestyle. I was in bands, and I lived quite an unhealthy lifestyle. And then I started to get back into running during my late 20s when my mental health started taking a bit of a dip, and I was feeling quite dark and depressed. And I would go out and walk, and I felt that gave me a fantastic release mentally. And then I just started thinking, well, do you know what? I've not run for a while. I'm gonna get back into running. So then I started to just run, and I progressed little bit by little bit running. And then I used to get that feel good, like, wow. So running was at a time when I was feeling dark and depressed in my late 20s. Running became a thing that I used like a tool, like a mental health tool, really, to make me feel better. So I didn't really have any goals to start with, other than just to improve my mental health. And then as I started to get more and more into running, got back into running a lot more in my late 20s, I started to think about setting some goals to give myself something to work towards. And a half marathon was always a goal that I wanted to work towards. And I started to work on this goal, and I'd constantly get injured. And this maybe for about a 2 to 3 year period where I was trying to train for a half marathon. I'd get to like 10, 11 mile distance and then get injured and not be able to do the event that I wanted to do. Subsequently, did a lot of research around running styles. I mean, I'm talking maybe 15, 16 years ago, looking at how you run influences what goes through your body, and that causes injuries, how well you look after your body in terms of your mobility and your strength and your hydration, your nutrition. So my goals was always to get that half marathon in, and when I changed to be a little bit more serious with running, it took me probably, I would say, 4 years maybe of serious training and like adapting my strength training, adapting the way that I run, adapting how I was fueling my body to be able to properly achieve that half marathon distance. And then I went on to wanting to achieve, I started getting into trail running, and I enjoyed just being out in nature away from the roads. And I wanted to start working on trail events, and there was the first kind of event where I wanted to go further than a half marathon distance was a 25-kilometer trail event, which was quite a hilly one in the Peak District in the UK. So I set myself that goal, and that took me probably about four months to work towards and achieve that 25-kilometer distance. And now I'm looking at pushing that little bit further, and I'm looking at doing a 50-kilometer. I'm toying with the idea of getting into ultra running distances. The only thing that's kind of putting me off at the moment is the sleep, because I've got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. We've got daughters. And sleep still with our 3-year-old can be quite disrupted sometimes. I'm a little bit kind of like, I don't want to put all that time, energy and effort in and start stressing my body more when I'm not able to rest properly. So I'm still hovering around about the half marathon distance. I did a few half marathons, trail half marathons this year. So I'm always hovering around about the trail half marathon distance, but then looking to try and increase that to like the 50-kilometer. I'd love to be able to do a 50-kilometer. So that's my next goals. And I think also you've asked about any tips on how to set realistic goals. I would think break them down into your long-term goals. So I've got this big kind of long-term 50-kilometer goal that I want to achieve. But then you've got to have some medium-term goals. So maybe it's the 25 or 30 Ks. So I've got to be realistic of like, maybe in a year, 2 years, that big goal, that's the long-term goal, the 50-kilometer. Then maybe within a year, or within this year, it's working those 25 to 30 kilometer and get maybe 1 or 2 of those done, so I've got something to work towards. And then the smaller medium goals of just making sure that every single week I get my long run distance in, and I get that goal. So work on the smaller goals. So work weekly on, say for instance, set yourself a goal of like, this week I'm going to run 4 times and I'm going to run this distance. That's my goal for this week. Then do that next week and do that next week. Have your weekly goals, and then have your kind of medium to long term goals, and have those to aim towards, and break them down into realistic, right? So I need to do this week, and I need to do this week to get to that ultimate, that medium long-term goal that's maybe 3 to 6 months, 12 months possibly. So always kind of have long, medium and short-term goals that you can really focus on, and make them manageable and realistic. Because if you're always focusing on one big heavy goal, that can seem quite daunting and demanding. So always break them down into little pieces that seem much more manageable and much more achievable. So thank you for your question. Luis Barres, I hope I've pronounced that right, 7899. What's your recommendation for dealing with posterior shin splints that pop up during training on race week? I'm using the right type of shoe and stretcher ton before, after, but I still experience this. Love your videos and follow along for every post-run stretch. Thank you, Louis. I think that's right, Louis. Hope so. Hope I pronounced your name right. So shin splints are obviously related to sometimes running form. So if you're a heavy heel striker with a little bit of an overstriding, you could be putting a little bit more excessive force through the shin muscles. So check your running form. If you're not sure where to start with that, you can just literally set your slow-mo camera up and check if you're on a side angle. Check if you are overstriding with a heel strike, and that, if that is straight away, that's going to be a big cause of your shin splints. Also, running volume, which you've mentioned, you're coming up, you've been increasing your mileage. Overuse injuries such as shin splints are very common when we've been increasing that mileage. So maybe think about adding a longer taper. So you go, maybe if you're going during race week, there it's mentioned race week, maybe think about tapering for 2 to 3 weeks. So you've got a longer period. So you're not going to get those. So you start to recover a little bit. You're lowering your volume and your intensity a little bit over that period, building up into the race week, so that your body's, the intensity is taken down, that there's less intensity going through that shin muscle. So that could reduce the risk of shin splints during race week. Also icing, and making sure that you're icing regularly as well, just to make sure that we're getting that good squishing and that good healing going on in there. You could maybe, if icing is not your thing, you could go to cryotherapy. It's great for recovery. And those are the things really that you've got to watch out for, because you mentioned the mobility stuff. That's great. So yeah, just keep an eye on those things. You've got the shoes going on, so look at your form, look at icing, and hopefully maybe as well possibly look at strengthening the shin muscles with some balance work, with some heel walks as well, things like that. Just make sure we're getting that muscle nice and strong, but we're not overusing it, because that's going to cause things like shin splints. So I hope that helps, and thank you for following along with my videos, Louis. So Tracy Erwin, you're a regular commenter. Thank you for that. You are always popping up on my comments. Thank you, Tracy. You've put, hi Ash, currently training to build up my running distance. I'm managing around 8 miles and my aim is to be able to run a half marathon next year. How would you build up the distance and over what sort of time scale? I.e., do you increase your distance a little bit every week or fortnightly or longer? I currently do 2 short runs and 1 longer run per week, fitting around work, etc. Hope this makes sense. Many thanks, Tracy. It does make sense, Tracy. Thank you. As I mentioned in that previous comment from Ayana about working, gradual progress is very important as we start to increase our mileage. So you're currently at 8 miles. You're not that far off your half marathon distance. So you're just 5 and a bit miles off. So if you've got at least, we've mentioned next year, so you've got a good few months. So again, working in 4-week blocks would be a great time scale to work with. So work in 4-week blocks and have your 8 mile distance obviously as your long run, and just gradually, bit by bit. So maybe you go from 8 miles, you go to 8.5 the next week, then you go 9 miles, then you go 9.5, and then you just carry that on. But again, working on every 4th or every 8th week. If, say for instance, you would be building that up, you would go 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5, 10, 10.5, 11, that 8th week would then just drop down to say like about a 9 again. So just take the intensity down, allow the body to just have a bit of so we're building up, we're building that progression, and then we're just having a bit of a down, a little bit of a kind of deload, so to speak, lowering the intensity so that the body can adapt to the training stimulus. So yeah, think about having a gradual progress. And if you're able to, obviously you've mentioned about work, you're running 3 times a week at the moment. What you could do to get your weekly volume up at that little bit further as well is, as I've mentioned, just add 1 shorter run in. So maybe a mile and a half, just a really easy recovery pace, just to get that overall volume just up that little bit further. So we're getting a little bit more time into the legs, so that body again is adapting and getting strong. So yeah, gradual progress, and you're almost there. So well done, Tracy. Keep going, and you will get that half marathon distance next year. Okay, so Zakines, have you always done yoga and post-run stretching as part of your routine, or has it been a journey to get to your ethos? So thanks for that question, that's a great question. So I haven't always done post-run stretching. So as I've mentioned in my, 15, 16 years ago, when probably longer now, when I first started to get back into running, I used to just go out, I didn't warm up, used to go out the door, run, come back, and straight back into my everyday life, get a shower, straight back into my everyday life. And used to feel quite tight in my body, used to feel quite achy, and sometimes that would contribute, I would think, to my injuries, my reduced range of motion as well, because I was stiff and tense when I'm running, and you're putting demands through your body. If your body is not able to go through its range of motion, you're increasing your risk of injury. So no, I didn't always do post-run stretching. I've not always done yoga. I've probably done yoga for about 12 years now. And then when I started getting into yoga, and then I became a yoga teacher 5-6 years ago, I started to incorporate more of my stretching probably after yoga teaching. I still, even I used to stretch doing yoga for maybe 6-7 years, I still didn't really make the connection of like doing it after a run. So it took a while, and then really for me, when I started to incorporate yoga into my running, was really the first thing that I started to incorporate into my running was the breathing, was the yoga breathing. So when I started to do yoga breathing, and I felt that changing your breathing changed my mental health, it reduced my anxiety levels, it helped me relax more. And then I brought that into my running, and I was astounded really to think, well, wow, I can can relax when I'm running. I'm not as tense. I'm not as like panicky. I'm not as out of rhythm. I'm not out of breath as much. I'm breathing in and out through my nose, and I'm coping quite well with being able to run like this. So really, the way that yoga transferred or helped with my running was through the breathing to start, and then followed that with getting into understanding and science and well, basically the feel of how good it feels to stretch and have that mental space where you just have a little bit of time to breathe and relax at the end of the run, to just unwind, reflect on the run, reflect on how your body's feeling mindfully, notice what's gone on. Is there anything that need addressing? Is your body feeling possibly on the verge of an injury or an illness? Or so it was that kind of like mindful awareness. The breath came first, mindful awareness, and then adding in the stretching at the end of it. So I hope that's answered your question. But yeah, it was a period and it was a journey of getting to this process. It wasn't a straight overnight kind of bring that in. So thanks for your question. So Amy Red 94, how do you prevent a lazy running style when you're fatigued? Once I'm tired, my shoulder starts aching so much and I can't seem to relax. So as I've mentioned there, how we can help our body relax more when we're running is focusing on our breathing. And if we can, nasal breathing. And there's lots of stuff around nasal breathing, I know, but I'm not going to add into that. I'm not going to start quoting things or anything. But if you look at nasal breathing, how important it is, how we can set our breathing rhythm will help our body relax more. It'll also help us perform better because we're utilising oxygen better, which will then keep us performing at a higher level for longer. So we're hopefully not going to get as tired and as fatigued as quick. So making sure we set our breath rhythm, and there's some simple things that you can do. You can breathe in for 3 steps, breathe out for 3 steps, or you can breathe in for 4 steps, breathe out for 4 steps, or you can do a count in your head every 4 steps. Again, you say you're breathing in 1, 2, 3, breathe out 1, 2, 3, again, or 4, or you do 3 in, 4 out, whichever feels good for you. But set a rhythm that is focused on your footsteps. So when you're running, you're breathing in rhythm with your footsteps, because that sets a rhythm through the body. It sets a relaxed rhythm through the body because the body is moving with the breath. So once you can set that relaxed rhythm, that's going to help reduce your fatigue levels. And then also you can start to, again, just start to be aware, transferring some of that yoga awareness, that mindful awareness of body posture. And you can think about always coming back to the awareness in your body of through a mantra. Maybe you can have a mantra of, I don't know, your form. A few of my mantras are let your form do the work. Ash, I tell you, let your form do the work. And what I mean by that is I'm going to check my running form. So I always just check that I've got, imagine that I've got a string from the crown of the head just gently lifting me up. So it's just gently keeping me nice and tall. It's not letting my posture get lazy. It's not letting my arms get lazy. It's not letting me round. So when I tell myself, let your form do the work, when I'm getting tired, that means check my running form. I'll just readjust like you would if you was in a stretch. You just make that little adjustment and you're like, yeah, I can feel that now. So maybe set yourself some running form mantras, some self-talk. Maybe make sure that you can, again, just bring your awareness back when you're feeling fatigued, like I need to keep good form. So keep that good form nice and tall and get that relaxed rhythm with your breathing, with the cadence, with your footsteps, and that will help set that relaxed running rhythm. So I hope that helps. Thanks for your question, Damon. And Andrew06. In addition to running shoes that have already been asked about, what kind of shoes, such as minimalist shoes, sandals, flip-flops, do you recommend or use for muscle and foot recovery after intense training? What you recommend in them: minimalist, flat, arch support. Thanks so much. Okay, so what do you recommend in them? Okay, so this is a hotly debated topic, is the minimalist footwear. I have a really simple strategy. So I do wear minimalist footwear. Again, it's personal preference, it's personal choice. For me personally, I like the wide toe box. I like the feeling of my feet being able to splay, my toes being able to splay and spread out. I don't like them squished because I've got squished toes from wearing years and years of major brands in footwear that have squished my toes. I've reduce my knee and hip issues by wearing minimalist footwear, because my feet are connecting to the floor more efficiently, my feet are hitting the floor more efficiently, I'm spreading the weight throughout my foot more efficiently, and that's activating and strengthening the correct muscles. I don't want to get into a debate about minimalist and cushion footwear. It is, I have lots of clients that wear cushion, and again, it's all personal preference. If you choose cushioning over minimalism, that's absolutely fine. But for me, I choose minimalist shoes because I like the function over the fashion element, really, and over soft squishiness. So let's work on, if you're a minimalist foot shoe wearer, always trying to stay barefoot in the house as much as possible. So making sure, again, you're getting that good connection with the floor. I wear sandals, so I don't ever wear flip-flops. So flip-flops are really bad for the foot because you're effectively sticking your toes in and you're pulling your toes up. What you want is a strap around the ankle, because you don't want to be walking with your toes pulling up the flip-flop, which is basically what flip-flops do. So don't ever wear flip-flops. They're really bad for your feet, really bad for your feet. So don't wear flip-flops, that's one of the keys. I wear sandals. I've got, like, if it's a hot day, I wear sandals with an ankle strap around the back, so mandals, as my wife calls them. I wear minimalist footwear if it's a colder day, so I'm getting that good strengthening and pressing through the feet. I wouldn't recommend going to minimalist footwear if you're currently wearing cushioning shoes, because that's going to be a really quick, abrupt change. So if you're thinking about going to minimalist footwear, it's a long period, it's a long transition. You're talking 6 months to a year. I made the mistake of going so quickly that I massively damaged my calf muscles and was injured for about 3 weeks because I thought I could just run the same distances in barefoot minimalist shoes that I could with my previous cushion shoes. That's wrong. Don't do that. It will injure you straight away. Give yourself a gradual process if you want to change into minimalist footwear. I wouldn't really recommend arch support unless you have big issues with your arch. Again, you only have to look at Dr. Emily Spickle. She's fantastic. She talks a lot around the barefoot community and a lot around the arches. Arch support is like wearing a leg brace. If you was to break your leg and you was wearing like a leg brace and you had crutches, you wouldn't walk around with that leg brace and those crutches for the rest of your life. You'd want to rehabilitate and strengthen those muscles in the leg to make sure that that leg can fully function. And that's the same as the arch. So you really want to be looking at arch support as not a long-term solution, as a short-term solution, so you can strengthen the arch to get it back up to being efficient, which is the absorption. If you imagine this being the foot arch, so it absorbs the shock and then springs. That's what a good foot arch does. So you can do making sure you're barefoot a lot, making sure you're wearing sandals or mandals, as my wife calls them, making sure you're doing lots of yoga poses, single leg balance stuff, so single leg strength balance or yoga poses on a single leg that are going to strengthen that arch, and making sure we're pushing down the big toe. You can do some big toe strengthening exercises as well. I would just recommend giving your feet a good squish, a good massage at the end of the evening as well. Just take that tension out, making sure that the arch of the foot is nice and supple. Look after it. I've got a foot video coming out actually, so that will help that. So yeah, just think about your foot as muscles. You know, if you let your thighs atrophy, then obviously you're going to be a lot weaker in the thigh muscles. So don't let your foot muscles atrophy. Make sure you work on them, keep barefoot, make sure you do lots of single leg stuff to keep them nice and strong. I hope that helps. Thank you for your question. So Claudia Burdett, now I'm on to 6. How do you handle knee pain while running? I try to think of my form and try to adjust it to the best I can, but my right knee still bothers me while running or after my run. It's like my right leg is shorter than my left leg or something. Laughing face. So thanks, Claudia. So knee-related pain when you're running, I'm not going to give you a diagnosis of this, so please don't take this as a personal diagnosis, but generally speaking, it is related to either your running form, your heavy heel striking with an overstriding pattern, your cadence is quite low, so the amount of steps you're taking per minute is quite low, so you're quite bounding. So you're putting a lot of force through that knee, and potentially, so those are two things, and potentially the muscles around the knee are weaker or not as strong as they should be to support the knee. So the knee's taking a lot of the issue, and particularly going up into the glute muscles as well. So what we want to do to counteract that is we want to strengthen muscles. So we want to make sure we've got strong glutes, we've got strong quads, hamstrings and calf muscles and shin muscles, making sure that we are working on our cadence, or how many steps per minute we're taking. So check your cadence at the moment, and we want to be working up towards that 180 steps per minute, which makes it really efficient, really quick and nice cadence. So we're not putting too much impact through the body, through those ground reaction forces. So your ground reaction time, how long your foot stays on the floor, the higher that goes up, the more impact goes through the body, because effectively you've got to push into the floor, and then your body, you've got to put more muscular power to push off the floor. So look at your cadence, and then look at your overall form as well. So the cadence will probably alter the overstriding pattern. It'll more than likely alter that, because you've got to go quicker. So heel striking with an overstride is going to put a braking force straight through the knee. So by working on your cadence, that will reduce your knee pain. By strengthening the muscles around it, that will help the muscles stronger and not put so much damage through the knee. So I hope that helps. So look at cadence, and look at your running form, and look at strengthening the muscles around it. Karen Watson, you're a regular commenter. Thank you, Karen. What is the best way to run uphill? Should you lean your body forward or straight? What is your recommendation for replacing your running shoes? Thank you. So Karen, one of my favourite things is to run hills. I absolutely love running hills, and I've tried to incorporate. I'm quite fortunate in that we've got a few decent little hills around where I live, and I try to incorporate hills in pretty much every single run that I do, because I love the mental challenge of them. I love that. It's maybe a little bit sadistic, but I love that feeling of like, you've got a big hill, you get to the top, and you're like, how do I do it? So starting at the bottom, don't look at the top and think, I need to get there. Always break the hill down into 5 meter sections. So what I always do is I always look 5 meters in front of me. There might be a drain or a manhole cover. There might be something on the floor. There might be a tree. There might be a lamppost. I'm constantly looking 5 meters in front, and I'm like, get to that lamppost. As soon as I get to that lamppost, I'm like, well done, right. Next thing, get to that tree. Focused on working on that, getting that to that tree. Well done, I've got to that tree. And I'm constantly just telling myself, self-talk, get to this, get to that. And when I get there, well done, keep going. And I'm constantly just breaking that big hill down into tiny 5 meter little sections that I'm rewarding myself mentally with positive self-talk every time I get to those little sections. Well done, keep going, well done, keep going. So positive self-talk, break the hill down into manageable sections, and also making sure we're keeping nice and tall and a slight lean in. You are right. So we want a slight lean in, but we don't want to be leaning in so much that we have to work even harder to get up the hill. So have it nice and tall, and then slightly lean the chest in towards the hill. And we've got to think about having that good fast cadence. Don't stride up the hill, because that's just going to burn you out. So think about, you just got to keep your feet moving nice and fast, like quick pistons. So as you start to increase the hill, your feet, your stride length will shorten quite dramatically, and you might only, depending on the height of the hill, you might only literally be putting one foot in a few inches in front of the other as you go up the hill. But just keep your feet turning over quite quickly. Your cadence might increase up towards 200, just to keep that good light fast cadence, nice and efficient, not big strided bounding energetic movements, because that is just going to burn you out. So try and break it down into manageable sections, and try and be as efficient as you possibly can, and really focus on your breathing as well to help keep that relaxed. And you mentioned about what's your recommendation for replacing running shoes. Now, things around this, I would always look at the tread on the bottom of the tread on the bottom of your trainers, depending on whether the trail trainers or whether the road trainers. Have a look at the tread and make an assessment based on, you know, if it was a car tire, would it be bare? You know, is it quite thin? Is it giving you the traction that you want? Is it giving you maybe the support in the mud if it's a trail shoe? Is it got enough of a lug to kind of grip some of those more muddy, sloppy surfaces? have a look at the tread, and you can clearly see it's a really good indication of how far the tread is. Have a look at a bit somewhere where it looks a little bit fresher, and compare the most worn areas to the most freshest areas, and think, do these need replacing? Are these quite worn out? I would always recommend looking at the tread and trying to compare and look at how much the degradation, the wear has taken place, and you can make a good assessment of like, yeah, they're pretty worn out now. They've gone down, and there's very little traction that I'm going to be able to get, very little kind of dig and lugginess if it's the trail shoe. So I hope that helps, Karen, and thank you for your comment. So Claudia Bedet, again, you put, what are the best strength training workouts for runners? Now, the best strength training workouts for runners, it depends on where your current level of strength is at the moment. There's no point me telling you to go lift heavy weights if you have never lifted heavy weights. We want to get the foundations right. We want to get good movement right. We want to get good activations of the correct muscles correctly. So you want to be starting with body weight. You want to be starting with things like some of my yoga practices, or maybe even potentially working into some of the banded resistance workouts that I've got on there. Always start at mastering your body with its body weight first. You can do a lot with your body weight, and that's a really good, you need to master your body before you start increasing strength work. Making sure that we're getting lots of single leg stuff, so we're always doing one side and then the other, because if we're doing both legs, what tends to happen is the dominant side tends to take over. So make sure we're getting both sides. Make sure we're getting a good amount of core work and some upper body work as well. We want good, strong upper body. We don't just want this area to atrophy. A good, strong core transfers energy through the body. Good, strong arms makes again, a good, efficient arm drive and good power and strength, and keeps the postural muscles nice and strong and tall. So think about doing lots of single leg stuff. Start body weight, and then maybe go band, start to increase some band work. And then if you're feeling like you're at a banded level, I would train twice a week, 2 strength sessions of maybe 20 to 30 to 45 minutes maximum, really. And then start to incorporate some weights. If you feel like you enjoy weights, you don't have to. You can still stay at body weight, and you can still stay doing some banded stuff, and you still get the right amount of resistance. You just have to adapt maybe the time or the length or the reps that you're actually doing it. You just vary that. You just increase those. So yeah, I'd definitely work on single leg stuff. Make sure you're balancing each side, each out. Make sure you get a good level of core strength. Make sure you get some upper body strength stuff going, and make sure it's body weight, bands, and then if you feel like you want to, you can then start incorporating weights. So I hope that helps. So AJ Joshi, you're a regular commenter. Thank you for your comments. You've put, which shoes are best for long running, and which shoes do you use for your running? So I personally use Vivo barefoot shoes. I use some firm ground. They've got a little bit of a lug on them for my generally weekly runs. I'll run mainly roads with a little bit of trails in sometimes, but they've got a tiny bit of lug in. They've got a little bit of cushioning, but the cushioning is maybe 4 mil. That's the whole thing. It's got a little bit more than the actual total minimalist range of like, again, I don't want to advertise that company too much, because I don't want to sway your opinion of them. But that's my personal choice. So I use a little bit of but I like the flexibility of a barefoot shoe. I like the movement in the shoe. I feel like I can really kind of push into the floor. I can get the good activation. I can get the good spreading of the feet. So I use like a fairground Trill Primus, I think it's called, for my weekly runs, and then for weekends I use the Vivo Barefoot. I think it's called the ESC swim run range, and it's they've got quite a good thick lug on them that are made by Michelin, and I really like that good thick lug, because I've done this trail event a few times, and when I've used my other less luggy kind of trail shoes, I've slipped a few times, but these ones with this, it must be I don't know what it is, but it must be the Michelin tire. But the grip on them when I'm flying downhill in the slop and a little bit of loose gravel, I feel like they give me a lot of confidence. They give me a lot of grip that I can really push into the floor. So I use the Vivo Barefoot ESC, I think they're called ESC, swim run Michelin Michelin trail shoes, and I find them really, they give me a lot of confidence on the downhill. So those are the shoes that I wear personally, and I don't want to give you the shoe that you should use, because it's all about, you know, it's all about the brand, it's all about the feel that you like. Are you more fashion conscious? Do you want to be one of the more, do you want to be with one of more the bigger brands where you feel like you're a little bit more fashion conscious, you like that element of the fashionability? Or is it the functionability where you want that you're more of the function, like the minimalist shoes? It's all personal choice, whether you like big cushioning, maximalist cushioning, or thin cushioning. It's what the feel that you like. So I don't really want to influence you too much. It's all about, if you've got an issue with your current footwear and you're feeling like the question of like, something going on with my footwear, then obviously look into what that is. You know, is it that your feet are too squished, or is it that it's not giving you enough confidence, or maybe the midfoot's a bit too tight? Have a look at what it is, and then do some research and find out how you could kind of counteract some of the issues that you're facing with your current shoes. Because then it's got to be right for how you feel, and your feeling is totally different to my feel. So I don't really want to give you a shoe that you should wear. So, but that's what I wear, and I hope that helps anyway. So thank you for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, and if you've got another comment for another Q&A video that you'd like to put in the comments, do let me know. It's been a long video, I know, but thank you for watching. Comment your new comment in the comments, and I will answer that in another comment video. Share this video with somebody that's going to benefit from the information within it. Subscribe if you're not, and thank you for watching this Q&A video, and I shall see you in the next video on my channel. Thank you.